G'day, I'm Ash, welcome back to the channel. Now, it's not often I feature a, should I say, Reddit video, but this is what we're going to be doing today. I was alerted to a Reddit post on Reddit, on the Warthunder subreddit, that there had been a major leak. And when I mean major leak, someone had accidentally posted models and pictures of some new aircraft, and a lot of these vehicles are Japanese, although there is quite a number of Russian aircraft in this list, as well as two very well-known aircraft, which I'm sure you guys have read through the list and spotted already. Now, this is posted by Hunter12396, and if we have a look at this guy's particular user profile, this is PSY06's DeviantArt gallery, and this is just proof that it was he that leaked this, because there is actually, since I've opened this, I opened this last probably 10 minutes ago, there has been a number of changes. He's deleted a bunch of models already. I have no idea what he's trying to do, but regardless, the K184 with an updated skin, the T2, the I225, the Tandem Mine, the BF109Z, KO109, and the KO108 as well. You know, there's different things that this guy has accomplished, as well as making the BE6. So, if we scroll down a little bit further, he also does stuff for a digital combat simulator, also known as DCS. He's done the K4 model, the D9, and so on and so forth, and he goes all the way through and is just doing all these strange things. Regardless, he decided to post a few images, so we're going to go through those, because these are new aircraft, obviously being modelled and worked on. We don't know when they're going to come to War Thunder, but it initially looks like they are, so we're going to have a little bit of a look at what particular aircraft these are. The first two on the list, the J5N1 and the N2. Here's the N2. The N2 is a naval, I should say, Army Air Force interceptor. So it's got Schrager music on the back here, and it's basically just a regular heavy fighter, except built by the J5N company. It's not really the J5N company. I can't think of the name of the proper. Japanese is hard, so is Russian, and you'll find that out through this whole entire video. Here is the predecessor, the J5N1. I don't see how the vehicle differs at this point in time. Might see it in more armament, but already we have some of these in game, or similar aircraft to this, in the KI series with their heavy fighters. So again, this is quite interesting, because they had the cannons on the back to shoot down American bombers. Regardless, we've then got a new Japanese fighter. Now, if we zoom out just a little bit, de-enhance it, this is the J6K. What's interesting about this aircraft is it's basically the J7M. Now, we've already got the J7M in game. Could this guy be the one who had developed it? Who knows? Is this going to be an aircraft that comes to the regular tech tree, or is it going to be another premium? So it's going to be another premium, I'm going to be less than optimistic about this new patch. Now, obviously, Japan is getting a fully fledged tech tree coming up. There are some new developments in terms of naval that might not have been released yet, but I think they have been announced at the time of recording this. I'm not entirely sure. Regardless, this thing looks like it's got a decent armament. Wikipedia says it's got 20mm, although to me they look like 30mm. We'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. Because again, the J7M has 30mm, but then again, this aircraft is the predecessor. What do they learn on this going forward with the aircraft to try and make this a fighter interceptor? Obviously, a long-range, high-altitude bomber / interceptor thing. It's weird. The Japanese aircraft are very weird. There's also this oddly shaped tube right beside the cowling here on the right-hand side. I have no idea what that is for, but it's going to be an interesting detail. We'll have to wait and see. Next one we have is a medium bomber. Now, I'm not going to touch on these too much. Again, it's a medium bomber. This looks like KI's Kanmoshi. I don't even know how to pronounce it. This is basically their competitor to the G4M1. Obviously, the G4M1 did better, but this was obviously used as a naval bomber per se. Again, Japan didn't really have an air force. And when I say they didn't have an Air Force, they had two services. They had the Imperial Japanese Army Air Force, and they had the same with the Navy, the Imperial Air. Look, it gets complicated, and Japanese names are bloody hard, and I'm not a weeb. So, obviously a bomber. There's nothing too much there. The K8, so the H8K1s and the H8K4s are getting new models. They look very, very nice. Obviously, this is blurry. I do apologise for the image quality. However, it's contrast to, well, not having anything to look at. Here's the K1 and its new livery. Obviously, they're updating the models. So this person's been tasked with updating them and HDifying them, if that's a word. HDifying. Basically making them a slightly higher texture than they are right now, because they look absolutely crap in game at the moment. Now, this is something that everybody has been waiting for. This is something that my childhood has been waiting for. Yes, you are seeing a model for the Vought F8 Crusader. An aircraft which just defines Top Gun era very late Cold War, so early to late Cold War, by American naval supremacy. And this boy is just thick. I hope that this can somewhat... all I know about this aircraft is he is incredibly fast. I don't know if he's T2 fast or if he's faster than T2. I've never really bothered to look this up. I just know that this is just typical Top Gun. The first thing that I think about when I think about Top Gun is this particular aircraft, even though they used F-14s and F-16s and so on and so on. The massive arrestor hook on this guy looks like a massive penis. Male appendage, which is quite interesting. The wings here, the wingtips fold in, like they do when there's storage on the deck of the aircraft carrier. But I don't see how this aircraft will do actually carrier landing, because the current carriers in-game are too small to hold bigger aircraft like this. Their size compared to the aircraft needs to be updated as well as changed just a little bit. I'd like to see a different aircraft carrier models for each different sort of tier depending on what it was. That way we can actually land some of these bigger aircraft on bigger aircraft carriers, respectively. Then, we've also got the French Crusader. What's different between the two? I don't know. It's just the Crusader F8 EFN. So, obviously, the France version of such. Does this mean we'll also get an Italian version? I don't think the Italians ran with this. But it brings up another opportunity for Britain and Germany to get some interesting aircraft. Maybe the F-104. Maybe the Vulcan. Maybe the English Electric Lightning. I want. Maybe a version of the Hunter, which will actually be somewhat useful with air-to-air missiles. And of course, America gets a shitload of jets like this. There are so many variations of this particular Crusader as well. Again, it's a multi-role fighter, and oh, I'm so excited. Again, we're not exactly going to know when this is going to happen. Anyway, we're moving on to the Di6, and we're going back from more modern day to again the start of the 1930s, 1940s. This is probably a ground attacker version of the I-16. Sorry, the I-15. It's got the same powerful engine. The empennage has been lengthened a little bit. So think of an I-15-3 or an I-15. And this one's got retractable landing gear, except that this also has what looks to be and appears to be a rear gunner. So that's really the only difference here. So this is called the Di6. So, who knows? Exactly who knows what's going to be going on here. I welcome new low-tier stuff because it's fun and exhilarating and exciting. Plus, smaller aircraft play a larger part in history, more so than more modern contemporary aircraft, because these guys were the ones that developed tactics and then developed and further made aircraft into what they are today. Regardless, that's a bit of a tangent. We've got the Polikarpov, I can't even pronounce it. This is basically a heavy fighter. And I say heavy fighter because it's like the PE-2s or like the TU-2s, but it's got a massive fuck ton of armament here on the front. These 3 cannons, or there's probably 4 of them. We don't know what the armament is. We don't know how special it is. It looks like it's got air brakes or some sort of winger long. I forget the terminology here. pronunciation is not exactly key, and it is 4:30 in the morning. I have no idea what I'm doing. Obviously, there are flaps. Any aircraft should have flaps. One of the interesting things that I noticed was the fact that the engines look eerily similar to that of a P-38 Lightnings. Now, I don't know whether the other TU2s or PE2s for that matter have similar engines to that, but coincidence? Probably not. Again, Land-Lease was the thing. We don't know what the Russians truly got. We do know some, but I don't know, an interesting heavy fighter, that's for sure. Now, the next one is a Russian ground attacker. Now, if you know that Russia's greatest single-engine aircraft of World War II was basically the IL-2. Forget the Ak-9s, forget the Ak-3s, they're a fantastic aircraft. Forget all the Russian bombers. The best Russian aircraft that the Russian Air Force could put out was the IL-2, and this is the development of such. This is a continuation. Obviously, we have the IL-2 943 and 944, then we go to the I can't remember, it's the IL-10, and then there's an IL-10 1946, and so on and so forth. This one, its armament is pointed down slightly. I presume to counteract the fact that the pilot is sitting so high up, he won't be able to see his guns. And the rear gunner is quite interesting as well. It looks like they've reused the old cockpit of the IL-2, which should be like roughly around here if you smooth it out. So the pilot should really sort of be sitting center wing or center mass rather than on top of the engine. And what looks to be radio-controlled rear gunners, or some form of testing for some kind of 23mm armed rear cannonry. Regardless, this could be an event vehicle, this could be an Operation Summer vehicle, it could be another Grindathon vehicle whereby we have to grind for hours to get imaginary parts and then also have RNG involved and then craft a bunch of parts and that bullshit. We could also have this as a gift vehicle, we could also have this as a premium vehicle, and it could even go in the regular tech tree, which is what I'm hoping. But again, another event vehicle I don't think is really necessarily needed for Russia. I can already fill probably 8 or 9, probably 12, 15 slots with just rare Russian aircraft. So this is kind of a one-off. So what will it be used for is really the question here. Now, let's get rid of that. The Ak-25 is a jet. Now, the Ak-25 is a development of an SU series of aircraft. The Yaks, obviously, Yakolov, I can't pronounce the company name, they developed a lot of jets after the Second World War. You know, 1947 rolls around and Stalin then realizes, hang on, we have not got a jet that the Allies already have. Obviously, the Meteor was a thing. The F-80 and the P-80s were just becoming a thing. In fact, they would have been a thing for, you know, a year or so. You know, secret testing during the Second World War, you know, allowed jet technology to sort of really take off, mind the pun. Obviously, they're still using the German engines here, it looks like. Variations of the Jumos, although they're two-mounted. And I wonder if this thing can actually carry heavy ordnance. Now, I've seen pictures of this thing particularly before. It's got interesting features here. On the right-hand and left-hand side of the wings, they've got little wheels. So this means that the aircraft sort of just wobbles around. I find this really interesting. Anyway, that is that particular aircraft. Now, we go to the NI-215. Now, this looks like the Russians went, aha, comrade, Britain has a beautiful jet called the Meteor. Let's totally take inspiration from that and make a slightly thicker Meteor. Not quite as thick as the beefy boy, the Canberra. And, well, development, obviously. Just look at it. It's absolutely... I don't know whether I like it. I don't know whether I'm ashamed. I've never seen this particular aircraft before. I have never heard of this particular aircraft before. I have been to one Russian aircraft museum which had a picture of this, but that's really all that is really known for me about this particular aircraft. I haven't really looked into it any further. Again, Cold War, you know, oh, someone went to Gulag, they've lost the files. We don't know much about this. Will it perform similar like to a Meteor? Hopefully. Although, does Russia really need another Meteor? No, they don't, no. Oh well, I guess it's more filler for the low-tier tech trees, which I say low tier, I say entry-level jets is what I really meant to say there. Now, this is a heavy fighter, or a bomber, or a naval fighter. Looks like they've just strapped a couple of IL-2 engines onto a chassis and then had a welded a H-tail to the end. We don't know much about this aircraft either. I have never seen this. I don't know what it is. The Petlekov 6100. So it's just called, in the screenshot it's just called the 100. I don't know. I really don't know. We're going to move on, because it's just, it gets weird. It's just Russian weird. Of course, then we've got the Newman R10. The R10 is another Russian aircraft. Although, could it be Japanese? It looks Russian to me. It's early war. It's basically a dive bomber. It has a rear gunner. It probably can hold maybe 250 kilograms, maybe 100 kilogram bombs. It's probably got 2 forward-firing machine guns. It's probably going to be relatively low tier. It's probably going to be an absolute blast. So again, these are all work in progress. Could this be a premium? No, probably not. It's probably not unique enough in a way. But anyway, there's that. The TU-12. Now, this is where things start to get a little more interesting. We've got basically a form factor of a PE2. Obviously, you've got the empennage, the fuselage, the rear sort of tail section, the horizontal. It's all PE2, but then you've got these massive jet engines strapped onto the wings. Obviously, a redesigned cockpit and a redesigned front bomber panel. And this is a bomber. I don't know much about this one. It seems like they've sort of borrowed elements from any kind of aircraft that they could get their hands on, including, I don't know, the opening canopy here where you hop into the aircraft reminds me of a B-25, because when you go hop into a B-25, the Mitchell, the North American bomber, the door also opens in a similar fashion, so the pilot can get in, and then the co-pilot and whatever. Obviously, there's a gunner at the back, there's a gunner at the rear, there is no gunner at the front. But it's a jet aircraft, and it looks so World War II. It's really interesting. So this is called the TU-12. Well, I should have known that. TU-12, Russian. It's weird. The last aircraft is something that I've been wanting for a long time. Now, a few of you who know that I like naval float planes, here, have it. Have it. Have my children. I want this thing. I want it. Look at the bombs. It's even got like what looks to be a rocket rack right here. So obviously, all the bombs on the side here. It's got a rear gunner there and a front gunner, and it's good. For those of you who don't know, I really like my MBR2. I really like the HE51 floats. I really do like the Catalinas in some regard. The Sunderland is absolutely borderline broken. And I use the MBR2, which is basically the predecessor to this particular aircraft, as an escort to the TB3, the all holy mothership of vehicles. Again, the MDR6. We speculated that there'd be more float planes for each nation soon, but seeing this, oh, I'm just excited. I'm just excited. 2 engines. Does that mean that this thing can fly on 1 engine? I hope so. But I also hope that it retains some of the more maneuverability characteristics of that of its MBR2 brother and cousin, because this is just glorious. We don't know the armament. They look like 100 kilogram bombs. It doesn't matter. It's a flying boat. I'm going to drop all my bombs and become a fighter interceptor or a bomber interceptor. There's not really a comparison there. But anyway, that was a brief look at some of the aircraft that could be coming to War Thunder. We don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know exactly when. When I mean exactly when, I mean contrary to what is put here, they look like they're in a very early, or sort of say early to late stage of development, which means they could come soon, but I don't think they'll come soon enough. Who knows what else the patch will bring? Obviously, we've got a Japanese naval patch coming soon. We've also got several other patches to come as well, and there's usually mid-year. There's probably 2 patches max, maybe 1. So we're looking at this month or next month, and then there's obviously one sort of June, July, August, and then there's obviously one at the end of the year. So again, quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3. They usually don't do quarter 4, or they'll do a minor patch with something, but last year's quarter 4 patch was obviously supersonic. So again, we really don't know. It's quite interesting. Anyway, what am I excited for in this list? The F8 Crusader, some of the weird Russian stuff, and obviously the J6K. But I'll leave a link to this so you can have a look and look at these particular aircraft in more depth. This has been going on for 20 minutes now. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed my rambling. I know I've made a lot of mistakes when it comes to armament or names or remembering what the significance of each particular aircraft. But again, it doesn't really matter until these come to War Thunder. So until these come to War Thunder, they're technically not in the game, so we don't really have to worry about that too much. In terms of balance with the F8A Crusader, as I mentioned, look, it doesn't matter. Japan's got the T2. War Thunder's heading in a direction where we can't control, let's be honest. It's just gotta be what it is. We're probably going to get F-16s. We're probably going to get Yak-25s. Or sorry, Yak-25s. We're probably going to get Su-25s and so on and so forth. I think Gaijin really want to eat up the arcade simulation market with modern aircraft. We know this. Hell, even the helicopter, the AH-1Z is from 2006. It's a Marines helicopter, for fuck's sake. Like, yeah. This is going to be interesting to see the development on this one. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, lads. I'm sorry for my rambling and ranting. I just had to put my thoughts out on some of the vehicles. And just take a look at them, even if it's just very lightly. I hope you've found this one interesting. Like, comment, and subscribe. Actually, I don't really say that. Anyway, bye-bye.